But isn't the point of art less what people put into it and more what people get out of it?
Is that the point of art?
There is a scene in BoJack Horseman where he reads a letter. We never see or hear what's in the letter, but judging by his reaction, it's something horrible. After that, he goes back to the party with a face of absolute shock. Sits down, time flies, and suddenly he notices a beer on his hand. And when I was watching this, something snapped in my head. This is the face of relapse. Welcome, travelers, to the Midnight Mission. I am Mr. Pryor, and tonight's mission is about relapse and how to avoid it. Addiction, more than physical, is a mental problem, and it takes a lot of guts to accept you're an addict and take steps to quit. But hardest part of quitting addiction is staying away from it. There is something wrong in your lifestyle that led you to getting addicted to anything like alcohol or drugs, or things like binge eating, video games, porn, or any destructive behavior. If you try to quit doing one or all of these things, but not change your daily routine, you're gonna have a tough time maintaining yourself from falling back again into those bad habits. There is a void in your mind that you try to fill it with your addiction. It may have started as a joke or a one-time try, just to see how it feels, but over time it becomes part of your daily life. And you may convince yourself that your addiction is what keeps you sane. So when you start to quit, suddenly this big void in your head that keeps disturbing you comes back. And you can't even describe it to others that how does that void even feels. Your simplest explanation is that you just don't feel so good. And your only cure is to getting back to your addiction and relapse. Several things can cause this void. The easiest of them is boredom. When you have a very repetitive routine, it's hard to not fall into some bad habits. So you can't push yourself to escape those habits without changing your routines. I don't want to lecture you about how to be productive and stop playing video games and watching movies or TV shows or animes, or stop drinking alcohol or eating junk food and start eating healthy and exercise. These are the basics. But if you need a guide on how to have a productive day, there are a lot of articles and videos on the internet that can help you. But first, you must accept that your way of living is not okay and change entirely in order to fill that void. You can start small. Do not pressure yourself. Instead, little by little, you can spend your days differently, and hopefully you don't need to use your addictions to have a better feeling anymore. But that's not all. You may have a fine routine, but in your head you keep having that fear of relapsing. It's like you're waiting for a chance, any excuse to go back to your addiction, because in your mind you are still an addict. You don't see yourself as a person who lives their life. You see yourself as an addict who tries to live their life as a way to avoid relapse. Even though you did quit, you're still letting those bad habits to define you and control your life. You should get them out of your head. If you did quit, doesn't matter for how long, even a day, you're not an addict anymore. You don't need your addiction to fill the void in your head. You must believe in these facts with 100% of your heart and mind. Now I know that what I said may work on addictions that are mostly mental, like porn or binge eating. But if you're addicted to drugs, trying to quit is much harder with lots of physical pain. So having this mindset alone will not help you, and you need to seek the medical help you need alongside having a strong mind. And know that your addiction is behind you and you do not need it anymore. Unfortunately, there is a darker side to an addict, and that's when you lose hope. When you are at your lowest point of life, you have no hope, shattered and destroyed, just like BoJack after reading that letter. And this was the main reason I made this video. I wanted to warn anyone who their path will come across this video that your addiction may wait in the corner of your mind for your moment of desperation when you lost hope. That void may comes back, whispering in your head.
Do it. Relapse. Do your addiction if you want to fill that void. Nothing matters anymore anyway, right? You tried your best to be better, yet look where you are. Stop resisting and enjoy this pleasure.
I want to tell you, please stay strong. Hard times always come, They are natural parts of life. Nobody was born to be happy 24/7. Sadness, depression, not being fine, not feeling good are all normal parts of life. Don't run away from them by drowning yourself with instant gratification. Don't let them be an excuse to use your addiction as escape just because you don't want to feel anything anymore. I completely understand it hurts so much. The pain sometimes can be unbearable. Scream, shout, let it all out. Cry if you want to, but you have to experience this feeling. Do not turn your back on it. Accept it as a part of being alive, not as a burden. Yes, sometimes you are unlucky and so many things that you do not deserve happens to you more often than what you actually deserve. Life is not fair. It is what it is. Do not blind yourself to the truth with fake pleasures just because they are available, because this is another reason for relapse. Availability works as a catalyst to all previous reasons. Your addiction's ease of access, combining with being bored, thinking you're still an addict, or when you've lost hope, pushes you to relapse. Most people think the first action to start quitting bad habits is to make it hard to get, and so many people only rely on that alone. As I already said in this video, getting addicted is the result of going through some tough times, or an unhealthy lifestyle in general. It's escape, a bad way to cope, so if you don't address the real problem and just try to cut access to your addiction, you'll only end up craving for it more and more. So even though you're not indulging yourself in those pleasures, you can't stop thinking about how good they would feel and end up making that void bigger and bigger in your head and fall right into the trap of thinking like you're still an addict. This pressure can force you to replace your old addiction with a new one in order to cope with the absence of the old one. And you may even are not aware of doing this at all. But the worst part is that you may continue this destructive behavior until you relapse really, really, really hard.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
At that point, you may hurt yourself or others to the point of no return. I'm not saying availability has no effect on relapse, but if you take care of your mental problems and core issues that got you into addiction in the first place, there is a very low chance of getting into your bad habits again, even if they're right in front of you. So get rid of your porn, alcohol, drugs, or whatever that you're addicted to, not because fear of using them again, but because you don't use them anymore and they're just wasting space. At the end, there is no guarantee that you'll never fall back. Instead of worrying about relapse, don't think about it. It's not part of your life anymore. You are not a former addict that is trying to not relapse. You're just a person who tries to have a healthy life. Don't be like Dr. Champ, who let only one bottle of alcohol and only one day of being drunk destroy all his progression, and use that as an excuse of falling back into old bad habits. The final conversation between Bojack and Todd sums it up pretty nicely.
I'm trying to set little goals for myself. Like, in a couple months, I'll beat my record for being sober.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's something to aim for. But after that,
After that, you'll beat your record again. Every day, you'll set a new record.
sure, but it's easy now in jail. I don't have to make any choices for myself. I worry about what's gonna happen when I get out. What if I relapse again?
Then you'll get sober again. Let me tell you something. I was at the office the other day doing the hokey pokey with some work associates, and I realized everyone misunderstands that song.
The hokey pokey.
Yeah, there's way too much emphasis on the hokey pokey part.
That is what it's all about.
No, that's exactly what I mean. That's not what the song is saying.
Okay.
And I was thinking about my mom. My relationship with my mom. It's weird, awkward. I feel like she doesn't really get me, but, she's trying. And a couple years ago, I never thought I would have any kind of relationship with her. Like, I was sure of it.
What changed?
I don't know. I did, or she did, or, we are.
Huh.
So, that's what I'm talking about. It's like the song says. You do the hokey pokey, and you turn yourself around. You turn yourself around.
Whenever you slip and fall, just do a hokey pokey and turn yourself around.
That's what it's all about.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I wish you a beautiful and safe night until we meet again on the next mission.